Green Lantern, issue 12, legacy number 548, Jeremy Adams writing with
Mhm.
Zermanico on the art. Now we're talking. So
Yeah.
I have been really enjoying this book. Obviously, we built up last issue that Carol was probably going to end up intervening, which she does. Although the book starts with the sort of the evil lantern, well, I say evil, the lanterns that are working for the United Planets try to take in
Yeah.
Kyle and some of the
I
others.
I think Theros calls them the Spectrum Lanterns.
Okay,
So I
that's
think that's what we should call them from now, because they can shift within the spectrum. They're
yeah.
not just green or.
It's a good enough name as any.
Mhm.
But Kyle's, on his knees, he's freaking out, and they're trying to explain to the other these Spectrum Lanterns that he's not quite right. There's something not right with him just now.
Mhm.
And then Kyle just yells stop, and a burst of energy comes from him. And notably, what this does though is that it takes away all of the lantern power from the Spectrum Lanterns. They're lying there without their energy suits or anything like that. And notably, one of them is like a big mouse in like a bubble. Who in the previous page, the rest of his arms and his legs were just green constructs. Like he sort of made himself like a mech suit almost. So
Yeah, he's a fish, Pete, not a mouse.
is he? He looks like a
Yeah.
mouse. When he's standing up, that head looks like a mouse head to me.
Oh no, that looks like a fish to me. Look down, look down. He has no other limbs or anything. Like those are fins.
I mean, I can see it now you're saying it, but
Yeah.
if you just showed me that head, I would say that was meant to be a mouse head.
Yeah. Well, regardless, he has nothing to stand on anymore, so he just falls over in his little bubble tube.
Yeah, he's just like, that's what made me notice it. I went, wait a minute, what's this bubble thing? And I went back a page and went, oh yeah, the rest of his thing's just a construct. Fair enough.
I also got that Kyle yelling stop. Just the way that Zermanico has that page laid out, and then with the color, it like the white blows everything else out, and it almost like affects everything on the other side of the page too. Just a real good layout.
Yeah. And, Kyle's narration is there for that first page where he's basically confused and it's like the spectrum of all the colors is like messing with his head and he doesn't understand. It's almost like the fact that these spectrum lanterns exist and all the power batteries are merging or whatever is messing because he has a connection to all of them.
I'm wondering too if it's because he was Ion, right? So he had the green energy in him, right? Because the Ion was one of the what do we call those when they had like the parallax, right? The entities, I guess. He had the green entity in him, so I'm wondering if he has a closer connection, and that's what he's feeling because he says it's like a rainbow and he can't grab it, right?
Well, I was thinking that was more a reference to the fact that he was a White Lantern, right, for extended time.
Oh yeah.
And the White Lantern obviously is all the different spectrums
all
combined
of them together, right? Okay. No, I forgot he was a White Lantern. Because I know each of the other guys have also held other rings, right? But I forgot he was all of them.
Yeah, he was literally the entire spectrum. So that's like a little tease at the start to sort of give us something that something important with Kyle's going on. But the main bulk of the issue is back to Hal and the others who are fighting all the Durlans, because obviously it turned out that all of the members of the United Planets Council had all been replaced with Durlans who had shapeshifted, and that's where we pick up with them fighting. And they're trying as best they can, but ultimately they're losing. Baz goes down, Joe goes down. Hal gets to a point where he's like, okay, I can't help win this fight. The best I can do is get away and get help. So Hal has to run, which is very out of character for Hal. So it's serious.
Yeah, Hal does not run for much.
Yeah, so it's selling you just how much this force is from Tharis and the Durlans. So 3 blindfolded lanterns.
The Unseeing, which was that council that we met like 2 or 3 issues ago.
Yeah, the Unseeing, yeah.
The prophecy people.
They're waiting for him in space, and they form a big sort of dragon style construct, and they're going to win. But that's when the pink light, if you will, the sapphire light, I suppose I should say, appears. And then when Hal realizes what he's seeing, he's like, "Oh, you guys are in for it." And yeah, we get the big full page spread of Carol yelling, "Let him go!" So yeah, as the last issue built up effectively, this is very much Carol showing up to save his ass. What I liked about this is that one of the things she does is she makes a construct of a car and slams it into the Unseeing. And I think what I liked about that is that I'm pretty sure that's the same car that she was in with her fiancé a couple issues ago, and that felt a little symbolic to me that she was using that car that she has with him as like as a weapon to save Hal. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much
I
into
was
it, but
I was thinking too is the Hal stole that car from the principal and took him to
oh, it could
Vegas.
be that car. You know what? That's
That's
also a
but
valid.
I don't know if it's the same make and model and stuff. But that's what I took from it was like because her memories of that time is
Oh,
what's
sure.
driving her.
Yeah,
You know.
either way, it feels like it's referencing
Yeah.
stuff
Mhm.
that he's already set up before in the run.
Mhm.
So no, so she actually has to carry Hal away because he's too weak. So she zooms off,
Mhm.
and notably, the Unseeing are like, wait a minute, that power battery is destroyed. How does she have that
Mhm.
energy? Obviously, Tharis also talks about in this issue. How does Hal have green energy? It's not coming
Yeah.
from the same place that all the Spectrum Lanterns are getting energy. Where is his energy coming from? Those sneaky Guardians, did they have another power battery somewhere? So it's setting up right now that
Yeah.
he's becoming aware, or at least guessing, that there
Mhm.
might be another power battery, and he wants to find it because it's going to be a big deal if he doesn't.
Yes.
So
Which
big
makes me
stuff.
think too, were there other, did the Zamorons do the same thing the Guardians did,
Mm.
where there's multiple batteries,
Oh yeah,
Uh,
possible.
but yeah, when she shows up and just that the purple on black, that it looks fantastic, you know,
Yeah,
the
no,
violet I should say because it's the violet light of love.
yeah. So no, it looks great. She zooms away with him and gets away and takes him back to his trailer. And we get a lot of sweet moments of her holding him and him being kind of out of it.
Yeah.
Although she does also complain about his the state of his place. Although before we get to that, as this is where all the Tharis stuff comes in.
Yeah.
So Tharis pulls a Joker in Dark Knight where he's upset that Hal got away. So the three Spectrum Lanterns that he'd sent after him. Okay, you're three to blame, and as one, first of all, you're switching to red because you should be angry that he got away, and two, only one of you get to stay on, so fight amongst you to see who survives. So we
Mm-hmm.
just get like a page where they're fighting in the background, and then at the end, like there's the ones left who's killed the other two aliens. So it gives you a sense of how he's ruling everything. But the other big thing here is that he contacts Amanda Waller for help and says, "Hey, I need Hal Jordan. We suspect he's back on your planet. Do what you're told." Now, Waller does not like being told to do something by an
No.
alien, but he makes it clear that he's more powerful than her, and hey, if you piss me off, maybe I won't consider Sector 2814 to be left alone anymore. So, he's whipping it out and flaunting the length a bit, as it
Mm-hmm.
were, in terms of power. So, this is interesting. They also give you a quick reference here that the reason why in House of Brainiac they were able to fly through the blockade is
Yeah.
because Waller or Tharis had made a deal to let them through. They kind of just reference it quickly here. They don't explain it too much. They just kind of say,
Yeah.
hey, we let that go through. And we know that Waller was in cahoots with Brainiac, so
Mm-hmm.
that's why she would have wanted that to go through. So this was a nice little bit of like connecting up different things that are all supposed to be feeding into each other. Here,
Yeah.
I thought, but yeah, so yeah, so Waller's been tasked with finding Hal to keep that relationship with Tharis healthy. But like I
Going.
said, Carol is disgusted with the state of Hal's living quarters.
I just got so I got there in time to think, grabbed you, and I think this milk has turned to cheese. Like, man, you gotta get rid of that milk. Keep it fresh. You can't let it
Uh,
solidify, man.
I'll tell you what though, I wasn't expecting Carol to have already had the realization that she wants to not
Yeah,
be with the fiance. She's like, hey, I was
yeah.
literally about to get married, but you know what? I've realized that I don't want someone who's predictable and safe. I kind of, like you being who you are is what I've always liked about you.
She loves the mess that is Hal Jordan. You know.
So it's kind of a sweet moment. It's
Hmm.
it's all very nice, but just as he's about to say "I love you," there's a big boom explosion, and the cliffhanger is King Shark and some others. I presume sent by Amanda Waller,
Yes.
coming to look for him. So that's the cliffhanger, which I appreciate. I like that we're back in Earth again. I like that we've
Hmm.
done so much good world building, and I assume we'll still cut to space. We'll still cut to Tharis. We'll probably still cut to what Kyle and the other
Yeah.
lanterns that we've now introduced into the story are doing. But I like that it's grounded it again on Earth and be like, okay, now here's this side of it where it's still a part of the main story because it's still, Waller's still hunting them for the larger story at play with Tharis, but we're going to spend some time here on Earth and probably give Carol and Hal a chance to bond through fighting
Yeah.
and so on. So yeah, I'm loving the pacing of this story. I think this is night and day versus Williamson. I think this is moving through its ideas at the right pace. I'm liking the concepts that it's bringing up.
I like that Adams has been like seeding things a little bit, like the idea that Hal's ring was different, and it's because the secondary lantern is hidden on Earth, right? So like the whole limit that he put on himself because he thought he couldn't leave the planet, right? We know why that is. And then here, I think this is the first time that we've seen that Theros is wearing a United Planets ring.
Yeah.
That seems to be able to shift the spectrum, because it's almost like he's the one that activates their red, you know. So the fact that their rings seemingly are being controlled by this one ring, you know, adds a bit of a thing to it.
One ring to rule them all. There, someone said the joke. Okay, stupid Lord of the Rings. I was
gonna walk past it. I didn't know how else to say it.
I knew everyone was going to be like, "Hey, Lord of the Rings." That's what that sounds like. I do think it's interesting though, the idea that someone has effectively created a new version of the Lantern Corps where they can actually control all the lanterns. Like imagine if the Guardians had this ability to just control all the Green Lanterns. It's like, it would be chaos. Well, it would be chaos. It would be like a dictatorship. But
and they've done that before on things. I mean, that was the whole Alpha Lantern concept, right?
Oh yeah, well they tried it with one. Yeah, but it seems like Tharos can control all of the lanterns like this.
Yeah, and they have access to all the different spectrums, or the whole spectrum. You know, it's not just green like the Alpha Lanterns were. So, and also, you know, Sinestro's been gone for a minute, so I wonder what he's up to. Because I can't imagine he's going to be pleased with any of this.
Yeah, he'll be back. I imagine Sinestro will end up being a bit of a frenemy here, because I don't think Sinestro is going to be pro Tharos.
No, because he was working against Tharos when he was on Earth. Yeah. You know? So he saw Hal Jordan living a life and couldn't let it go. So he's like, oh, crap.
I think what I like about this as well is that it's bringing in the whole spectrum of colors, but without dwelling on them so much that it feels that we're sitting going through. Because, you know, after Johnson's run, when he introduced all that stuff, it felt like every single run had to be constantly jumping between all the different cores and expanding the lore of the spectrums. I feel like here it's using it as a tool as part of the story, and we don't have to explain it because it's already established, but it also doesn't feel like we're dwelling on it, so we can just still enjoy the character stories that are being told and the politics of like what's going on in space with the United Planets. Like, it feels very focused, and the spectrum's only being used as like a tool by the villains to enhance the story, as opposed to it being, we're just going to like nerd out and keep expanding this forever and ever.
Yeah, no, it's playing with the ground rules that we already know what the red, you know, does, right? We already kind of know what the violet does and all of that. So when they're used here, it's just for a sense of familiarity. I like that idea that the spectrum is being used as a tool, because Theros is not corrupting, but he's misusing all of this, right? Like, there's a reason why all the power got shifted amongst all the different, you know, entities and stuff, right? So if this one guy has it all, what's that going to do? You know, the absolute power corrupts absolutely and all that stuff. But like, if he can affect his soldiers, you know, I don't want to call all the Lantern soldiers, but that's what they feel like.
What's so funny about you saying that is that Tharos, this could potentially, like, I don't think this is the story of absolute power, but like Tharos having all this power could be the story of an event called Absolute Power.
Yeah,
it would make sense, but it's funny.
But what I mean is, like, he can control the emotions essentially of his soldiers, right?
Yeah.
He clicks on the red and tells them to fight it out, you know. And then when he wanted them to go grab the other lanterns, he had them tap into the orange, right? And now he gets to the point, it's like, well, this is not exactly voluntary anymore at this point. Which, at least with the Guardians, they had, you know, the lanterns had the choice, and that's why you know, Hal and Guy and all of the rest of them always seem like a thorn in the Guardian side. And it seems like Theros is trying to get rid of that, but at what cost? So, but yeah, and ultimately, what's his plan too with all the Durlans? Like, this is some invasion style stuff. Like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, you know?
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll see. But no, I've been loving this arc, been loving the run. Yeah, I've said so many nice things about it. I don't want to repeat myself. So, Obviously the art here is very good.
Yep.
Zermanico, like that last page with King Shark and everyone else
Yep.
looks fantastic. I think the stuff in space looks great. Don't get me wrong,
Hmm. Hmm.
but I think Zermanico really excels. Like that page before the last page where it's inside the trailer, and
Hmm.
it's the lights coming in the windows, and you have the high contrast like on the characters, and we get the facial acting, the expressions. I think that's
Hmm.
where Zermanico really shines.
Yeah, it's in the kind of mundanity,
Yeah.
right? Like they're just having a conversation as Hal's waking up. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
that
I mean, I
that
think mundanity is kind of an unfair word just in the sense that it's like the conversation is not mundane, the conversation is emotional,
no,
and I
but
think that
it's
comes across in the
yeah. But
faces.
when I say mundane, it's like this is just everyday stuff, right? They're not doing. It's not big actions. They're Hal's asleep in his trailer when we see him,
Yeah.
So
Because the stuff in space is still very good, but it's a bit
yep.
more just typical Green Lantern art in a way almost.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
So,
see, and I also like that they're playing with actual light, right? So like when when Carol makes her getaway, right, and they're like, oh man, that shouldn't be possible. Everything turns white again, right? So
yeah.
like the colors and Zermanica are working really well together to give this a sense of like wonder and awe too, because everything's kind of blown out and almost blinding. So, but yeah, it's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, no, it's great. There is a backup, which is a continuing
That's
last month's backup, which I did not read, so I didn't read this one either.
yeah. So it turns out this Lobo guy that Guy thought he was trying to bring in is not Lobo at all. It's just a stray Zarnian that got out and has been doing the wrestling thing against Omega Bam Man. And so Guy is forced to live in the Zarnian bottle city where Brainiac can take them in and out and has implanted devices near their spine that will essentially bring them back to the bottle. So it's definitely expanding, Brainiac's hold over these Zarnians, but it doesn't quite add up because, some of them have gotten loose in Power Girl and all this other stuff. So did he just implant them in all of them or just in Guy and this fake Lobo? But so in order to fit in, Guy has been driving a bus through this Zarnian bottled city, and he hates it, and he says like it's worse than working with Booster Gold. Um, and the fake Lobo brings him in and is like, hey, I can get us off of here. I know this place where they can take these devices out of us, which leads to them going to this like kind of hideout place where one of the Zarnians is like in a suit, so he really stands out as not looking like a biker. And on the way there, in order for Guy to fit in better, they paint his face to look like a Zarnian. So he's got the dark eye black on, his hair's still red and whatnot. He's got like a spiky look to it versus the bowl cut we've seen. They end up knocking that guy out, and then they're not able to find that device right away. But Guy finds something called the Eye of Krona, and it's like this jewel that has all these different colors in it. And Guy's like, well, everyone thought this was a myth, but this might change everything for the Lanterns. So he pockets that. The fake Lobo finds the device, which looks like a thermos with a needle coming out of it, which then he tells a guy to stand still, and he stabs him with it and pulls out the devices. So they end up shaking hands, and they end up getting pulled out of that out of the bottled city by Brainiac. So it ends with the fake Lobo trying to teleport back to the wrestling company because he wants to give it another go. And he goes, well, maybe don't go by Lobo. I think you need another name. He goes, oh, I was thinking about Warrior. What do you think? And Guy kind of thinks about it for a minute, and before he can answer, the transporter is for the Zarnian attack squad is activated. So that's what pulls them out, and then it ends with them falling through the sky. Guy still has the face paint on. So ultimately, it's not as much as a tie-in as much as it's a Guy and Zarnian adventure, which is fine. I mean, Adams does his best trying to make it fit in, but I feel it's almost to a detriment because they're trying to make it, him not being Lobo, but just being something that looks a lot like Lobo is kind of funny, but ultimately it doesn't add up into, the story of House of Brainiac. So, but yeah, that was it. The art looks fine. It's Maguire doing, Justice League International style guy, and all those Arnians look fine. They look all similar, but I think that's the point, right? You have to look at their haircuts and what they're wearing, but but yeah. So that was that story.
All right. Well, in that case, that's right. The book. What are you giving Green Lantern, Matt?
I'm giving Green Lantern an 8.5.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 8.5 as well. I think I liked last issue just a bit more overall. I think it was a better constructed issue overall because it felt like both stories were building to a big climax. Whereas this one inherently, because it picked up where the fight had started, half of the issue is like fighting, which is fine. It's good fighting, but it's inherently less exciting overall as an issue, I would say. But still very good. Loving the run. So.
I also want credit for not jumping into Huey Lewis and the Newest Power of Love at all during that with Carol.
I will give you no such credit.
Damn it.
The fact that you had to tell me that is a failure enough.
Oh, I was fighting it every chance I got when we were talking about Carol.